Hi, I'm going to be doing my international assignment on a MillerMart international store started in Japan. So a couple things to know about Japan before I get started is Japan has a collectivist society, so they value being in groups more than they do individuals, and that affects how they are rewarded when it comes to an employee doing more or the business succeeding. So, how I would recruit for that type of employee is I would use local employees through polycentric staffing. So that means that there would not be as many overseas employees from our end hired to work as part of the business, just because that also reduces the language barrier of employees. Granted, if we do hire employees from the US, we will train them not only how to properly run our business in that different culture, but also how to speak Japanese, because that's kind of important. It's more of a respectful thing than it is expecting them to know English, because I know it's taught in a lot of schools, but it's more respectful in their culture if you respect their traditions in that kind of way and know their language. Um, on that, hiring local employees, the minimum wage in Japan is it can be slightly higher. In Tokyo, it's around 900 yen, which is I believe $8 US. But the minimum wage in most places like Nagasaki is about 762 yen, which is about $6.71 US. It's pretty good. The average hours for my store would be around 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. That's generally when most retail and department stores will close, just to allow for that more collective society when they go home. They spend time with their families and with friends, and just prefer to stay in groups. So it's better to follow that than it is to make a 24-hour MillerMart. Um, so, on the note of benefits, Japan is similar to Canada in that they offer universal health care. So that actually can be seen as kind of a bad thing because you can't use that as a recruitment strategy as much because it is not as offered. However, there is a commute reimbursement that you can offer as a recruitment tool because most Japanese people commute by train or by sometimes by bus, but it's usually not common to own a car in this type of place. So it's more, it'd be easier for recruitment if you offered some sort of travel reimbursement, which would be less costly than offering medical, which really good. Um, a couple of other benefits that MillerMart would need to offer for these employees would be um, a general pension plan, overtime pay, sick leave, maternity leave, possible childcare, but MillerMart, we don't want to spend that much money. Um, also, disability leave, short and long term. It's a common in both our culture and theirs to offer disability leave, as well as a physical. So, having a required yearly physical through your doctor is something that they value highly. They do yearly physicals as a cultural thing, which, if we offered every employee the cost of going to their doctor and getting a physical versus offering them complete medical care, they'd see that as a bonus, but also we wouldn't have to pay as much toward the employees, especially when we're only paying them 670 around there. and possibly slightly higher. Um, Another thing is in a collectivist society, they value seniority and seniority of age. So in this type of society, we would have an older manager and younger employees. We would hire not only to keep the minimum wage, because younger employees usually um, prefer to start off at lower and then work their way up, but also we could have older managers, and that way the younger employees are more respectful to their managers, as well as um, see them as higher, so there's a bigger power distance between the two, which for MillerMart could be very useful. It wouldn't mean that employees get out of hand or that they demanded ridiculous things like a union, because um, but besides that, we wouldn't send many um, requirements for skills and talent acquisition because it's a market. You really just need physical labor, and the labor trend in Japan, just for simple department store jobs, is actually on the rise. So it would be very lucrative to start a business that was in another country with this, low education requirements, low standards for recruitment, cheaper benefits. If you hire local, you don't have the language barriers. You don't have to train them as much because they already know the culture and they know the language. They know basically what another Japanese person would want out of a store because they already are absolutely ingrained in that culture because they grew up in it. So it just makes more sense to hire local and make a lot of money from MillerMart.